can't put my thumbs up.
Crown Royal apple. Slaint. Hey! Welcome to the show, everybody. That was Next Plane to Vegas by Max the Axe. Brand new video that I assembled for them earlier this week, and I'm happy to play their tunes anytime. There's a lot of sun coming through. We're just going to lower the blinds a bit. Welcome to the show. We are awaiting the arrival of our co-host, Mr. Super Deeks, and of course our special guest tonight, Sean Kelly. And we will be discussing, among other things, we will be discussing this album right here. And there he is on the back. Right there. We'll also be talking about the brand new Lee Aaron album that's coming out in July. I think July 23rd is the date. Radio On, and her brand new single, Come On, came out today. So if you haven't heard that, head over to your Spotify, head over to your YouTubes, check it out, pre-order the album on CD or vinyl. Because let me tell you, this new track, Come On, is classically Aaron. Maybe her catchiest, like just outright catchiest single since What You Do to My Body back in like 89. It's just a classic summertime sounding radio hit. And if that's anything to judge by, you can tell why the album is going to be called Radio On. Although funny enough, whenever I hear the phrase Radio On, I think of Ozzy Osbourne. I think of the Osbournes. There's an episode early in the series when Ozzy bought a new car, and somebody was trying to show him how the voice-activated thing works, and he kept on saying, Radio On, radio on. And of course, the car couldn't understand anything Ozzy said. So that was kind of like the running gag is radio on. Nothing happens. Or it goes to turn on the lights or the air conditioner or something like that. But I am sure that the album Radio On by Lee Aaron will be nothing like that Osbourne's episode. No doubt in my mind. I would like to show off a couple of cool things here. First of all, we have the new mug, the LeBrain Train. This comes courtesy of Rick Coach. You can contact him on Facebook for your own custom printed things. This is stuff that he made of his own volition. He made this LeBrain Train t-shirt. And the funny thing is that he grabbed an image of the train with Richard Dreyfuss on the front. You can see clearly there's Dreyfuss from when I had Jon Snow on. And on the front, it's got the logo. Now, the only reason Rick is here, the only reason I am not wearing the shirt is because when I tried it on, the logo was just a little bit too much into my boob here. And it was just like emphasizing too much boob. So that's the only reason I'm not wearing the shirt right now. We'll have to make some adjustments when we do the final product. It was just a little bit too far into boob area. Good to see you, buddy. Yes, no beard. I got rid of the beard last week. Yeah. Well, anyway, this is just a prototype shirt, and thank you so much. The mug is awesome. So what happened was I came in to work Monday morning, and that t-shirt and that mug were sitting there on my desk. And Rick said to me, he goes, I've seen a lot of shows with a lot of hosts drinking coffee, and they always have their own mug. They always have their logo on a mug. And you were just drinking out of a plain mug, and that's not right. So I had to fix that. So that's just awesome. I would say for design notes, we should move the logo over a bit more this way so that, maybe not. I don't know. I just have to get used to holding it differently. Not sure. Do we need to move the logo? Not sure. The t-shirt, we definitely need to move the logo a little bit more to center. Thanks, Rob. I love it. I love it. T-shirts will be coming. So Rick is going to be working on t-shirts with me. T-shirts will be coming. I have a concept. And actually, the fact that he was able to print the train so clearly, hang on, there it is, so clearly with that image of Richard Dreyfuss on the front, that tells me that we will be able to accomplish what I want to do with the shirts. You will get one. You won't have to pay for one either. I am a little picky, but hey, man, if I'm going to get like 30 shirts printed, we got to move the logo just a little bit away from a boob. That's all. That's all I'm saying. And that is true. That Richard Dreyfuss guy does look like you. Alex Blayfield has a mug with a blue handle. It looks like a letter C. I don't know who that is. That's a UK reference. In addition to those goodies, we got a package here from Encore Records that I've already unboxed. But I wanted some reading material. So we got the latest issue of Classic Rock. Very nice. Very, very, very nice. Latest issue of Classic Rock. We got the new album by Smith Coateson, Adrian Smith and Richie Coateson. This one's getting great reviews. Can't wait to check this out. We got one of the few Styx albums that I didn't have yet, Paradise Theater. And this is the same as my Styx Cornerstone reissue that I got earlier, the colored vinyl, same series. So I'm getting really close to having all the Styx albums. I'm very close now. We got the deluxe Record Store Day, Joe Satriani, Surfing with the Alien, with the bonus LP of the tracks stripped, which means they have no electric guitar. The idea is that if you are a guitar player, then you can play along, or you can attempt to play along, to Surfing with the Alien. I will just enjoy it on a listening level, just to hear the bare versions of the songs without the guitar. That'll be kind of like karaoke versions. I can sing the guitar parts. And for the last thing I got for Encore Records, I need to bring on my co-host, Super Deeks, because he's partly responsible for this one. So let me bring on, you know him, Mr. Super Deeks. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How about you?
Not bad, bud. Not bad.
So I'm sure you're wondering what this is that I bought because of you.
Uh-oh.
Do you remember me telling you earlier in the year that I loved all your Iron Maidens, and I had to start buying Maiden on vinyl, getting a full collection of the first Maidens? Well, I had to start with this one.
Nice, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
one of my favorite covers.
That's actually a good price on that as well.
Yeah. $23.
Yeah.
You know, some of these albums, I've never had them on vinyl, so it's the first time I'm seeing them kind of up close, the way that you're supposed to see them.
Yeah, you can't beat that Derek Riggs artwork, man. That's just the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I guarantee you, Deke, 110% guarantee you that Derek Riggs will come up on the Best Album Art Designers show next Saturday.
I would certainly think so.
Yeah. I did not have any cassettes on order, Brian, and you can you won that argument, okay, buddy? You won. And Rob is saying hello to you. Phil Daniels is saying hello to Deke.
Hey, man. Hey, Rob. Thanks for joining in, pal.
Oh, man.
Zinger.
We got special guest tonight. I was showing off my Coney Hatch vinyl earlier.
Yep. Can't
wait.
More of that. More of that to come.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I was also talking about the new Lee Aaron track, that Come On, which I assume by now you have heard.
Boy, I was listening to it at 5 a.m. this morning, along with Salskadelphia.
Right. Big new release today. Surprise new release by the Tragically Hip.
Yeah,
well,
sure.
It's 5 unreleased tracks from the Road Apple sessions and 1 live track, right?
Yeah. You know, I was really happy to see that when I was reading about it yesterday, I guess when they announced it, that Crack My Spine Like a Whip is on there. Because when they played here back on the Up to Here tour at the University Cafeteria, that's the song they opened with. And I was like, wow, I can hardly wait till the next album comes out. And then a year later, Road Apples comes out. And that's the first thing I look for on the back of the Road Apples record. And it's like, where's Crack My Spine Like a Whip? They opened with the tune, man. Where is it? And, you know, Much Music there. I know that sent you the link there, the Much Music clip of them playing. It's such a killer tune. And it's just awesome to finally have it. And it's pretty neat. You can hear Gord talking in between the tracks and stuff. And it's pretty cool. I know a guy like Jeff Stevens just going to eat that up, those 6 songs.
He bought it already. He posted a picture.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, with his daughter. Yeah.
At a store called Something Else in Kingston, Ontario.
Yeah, that's
his haunt.
Well, he's lucky.
Jeff Stevens going to be on the show June 4th for the Judas Priest List show.
Nice.
You're great at segueing into stuff that I'm trying to cross promote.
Yeah. It's my next job in my life is a half-ass PR job.
Well, Deke.
Yeah.
It's just about 7:00. Let's do the show intro and bring on our guest.
Sounds good.
one-way ticket to anywhere. And a glazed donut. To go. The grind train. The grind train. All aboard.
Man, I love that theme song. Love that theme song. T-Bone Erickson, ladies and gentlemen.
West.
So our special guest tonight, Mr. Sean Kelly, is in the waiting room. Hey, Sean, just give us a thumbs up if you are good to go. He's ready. All right. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Sean Kelly.
The Brain Train is proud to present Mr. Sean Kelly. Present Mr. Sean Kelly. Wow. Present Mr. Sean Kelly. Wow.
You must have another window open where that's playing.
Sorry,
That's okay.
serious delay going on here. How's that?
That's better.
Okay. Well, as promised, gentlemen, my dog is freaking out. He's torn apart a pillow. I'm sitting here with his chew toy, dog treats. My children are in the basement under threat of death if they disturb me. And my wife is, which is very fortunate. She's in getting her COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
Welcome to my domestic life.
So this is just a regular day in the life of Sean Kelly.
Well, normally my savior of a wife would be managing not only her busy career but also the family, and I'd be probably downstairs playing guitar or something. But tonight, Dad's in charge. So pizza and chaos was on the menu.
It sounds like a setup for a classic episode of the Flintstones or something like that.
Oh, I don't know. Everybody loves Raymond or something. I don't know. But I got a drink and I'm ready. I'm prepared for the inevitability and rock and roll. How's it going?
I just want to start by congratulating you on this excellent new track that we've been hearing today. Come On by Lee Aaron.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, what a thrill to be part of such a great tune, Yeah, and great to see the response. Everybody's been just, so effusive in their praise, and it's a great feeling, and I know Lee's really proud of it. The whole band's really proud of it.
Now, my question for you is this.
Yeah.
Everybody's been saying it sounds like a great summertime tune, which I totally agree with, and I think it's going to sound great when you turn your radio on this summer. But my question is, whenever you hear like a track that's kind of like coming out to suit a season, it always turns out that it was recorded in the opposite season. Like it must have been cold when you were recording Come On.
No, you know what? To be honest, it was recorded. The bed tracks for that were recorded in Vancouver the week that the whole COVID thing went down.
A year ago.
A year ago. The bed tracks, yeah.
Wow.
We recorded all the bed tracks for Radio On were recorded at the old Mushroom Studios, which is now called Afterlife. But where Heart made their debut album, and very cool studio. But we recorded all those tracks in March.
Wow.
It was March of last year, and literally as we were recording, our phones were pinging with, "Oh man, this is happening." And I am the only band member who lives in Toronto, so we were all in Vancouver. And I'm staying in an empty hotel all of a sudden. There's no one on planes. And I'm going, what's going on? It was freaky. So I ended up saying, I have to go home. Mm-hmm. So we got the last bed track cut. And I was supposed to stay for a couple more days and finish guitars up there. I said, I'm going home. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. At that point, they were talking about close and travel. And we didn't know what was going to happen. It was going so quick. It was changing by the hour.
Yeah.
So I ended up going home and, we all kind of beefed up our home studios, and ended up finishing the record in our home studios. So anyway, it was recorded not during the dead of winter anyway. So,
wow. Well, that's a good story. That's incredible. I'm glad you made it home okay.
It was an eerie flight. I will tell you, I've never experienced a flight quite like that, or a feeling like that, even being in Vancouver, which is usually a pretty vibrant city, walking around before a session and going, where is everybody? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Go to this restaurant. Like, it was just the very beginning of starting to wipe down things and, doing all that. And it was odd. It was odd for sure. But you know what? The good thing is we were taking comfort in the fact that we were getting to make music and we were together and, with your family, really, your extended family, your rock and roll family.
Right.
So it could have been much worse, right?
Certainly.
Well, that. Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Hey, Deke, how are you? Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too, pal. So to stay on track with the new Lee Aaron album, you've worked with a friend of ours, the one and only Mr. Mike Fraser, who we've had on the show about a month ago with Andy. And and he was just, when we had him on, we kind of grilled him about the Lee Aaron album, you guys, and he said it's a stellar album. He's proud of it. He's proud of the performances. He said Lee is like phenomenal, which we already know. And it's pretty cool that you had a guy like Mike Fraser. I mean, the guy is the ultimate mixer producer guy going, and a great guy to boot. So how did all that? Because like the Lee Aaron thing, you're part of that band. Like you're the guitar guy in that band. So how did that whole hookup with Mike Fraser come about?
Well, it was. I'm not sure if it happened through a connection through Dave Reimer, our bass player. I know that he knew Mike, but I know that they both, Lee and Mike, both knew of each other, but they had never connected. I don't think they'd ever actually met. And I think it was just one of those things where it was maybe mentioned. It was one of those things where like, this is so obvious. We're in Vancouver. I know Mike was an admirer of Lee and her work, and Lee felt the same way about Mike. And I think somehow a meeting was arranged or a phone call. I'm not sure exactly. But when they actually did connect, there was a real genuine musical connection and a genuine friendship from what I understand. That spark, I think it's sort of like the spark that we feel genuinely as a band, this really kind of human connection and kind of just getting it. And I think that's the way she always puts it. He just got it. He got what we were trying to do with the tracks. And I mean, I'm a huge Mike Fraser fan. His name is all over all over it. And as far as guitar tone, someone to put your guitar tone in the hands of, who could you ask for better? I mean, he's Jimmy Page, Eddie Van Halen, Joe Perry, John Sykes. Like, I mean, come on, Angus Young. Oh yeah, Angus. Not bad either. Come on, like, I mean, this is the best of the best. And I was so thrilled to hear how he interpreted those mixes. And I mean, it was a real treat. Mike is just a brilliant mixer. And I didn't get a chance to be there personally. I would have loved to, but the rest of the band were in there. They just had a wonderful time. It was a wonderful relationship. And I think it's going to be a relationship that continues on, which is exciting.
That's awesome. So I was kind of looking at the pre-order of the album, and I seen it on Apple Music, which of course I pre-ordered on there. I actually pre-ordered the vinyl as well because I need to get it on vinyl. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you, I mean, it's like a pretty full album. You guys are going with 12 songs, about 50 minutes, and you got some killer song titles like Vampin', Soho Crawl, and Devil's Gold. Those are the three that stuck out to me. And I thought, because I love to play, I told Andy this, I love to play radio or A&R guy at times, what I would put out as a single, so pretty cool stuff. So can you tell us a bit about the record? Is it like full out hard rock? Is it?
Yeah, well, the record came about. Lee had this idea, and her idea was, we're going to get together. You're going to bring your 5 best ideas. We're all going to bring kind of our best ideas to the table. And we're going to write this thing in a weekend as a band, like we're in a garage, just like 16-year-old kids trying to impress each other and be excited.
That's awesome.
Wow. And so, you know what? We're going cool. Like, we've all done this, right? It's like, writing songs takes time, but sure, let's go. Well, we got in, and it just started going boom, boom, boom. and they were good. Like, it wasn't just we're having fun here. It's like, these are good. But, you know, I think at this stage of the game, we've been a band. Like, I've been playing with her for 7 years now.
Yeah.
And Dave has been with her for 8 years prior to that. I mean, I think at this point, you know, we kind of know what we're into and understand our influences. And like, I mean, in terms of what you're asking about the sound of the record, I'd say it's a pretty good mix of everybody's different influences. And I think it's a classic and classy sounding hard rock record, but there's also some elements of some amazing singer-songwriter elements. There's a couple of absolutely gorgeous ballads on there, but real powerful ballads, you know, not just, and I don't mean like power ballad in the wave your lighter kind of way. I mean, powerful lyrics, powerful performances. There's one called Wasted that's on there. That is one of the most heavy things I've ever heard her sing, both lyrically and vocally. And it, you know, it kind of starts in this kind of acoustic-y, gentle way. It had this kind of acoustic idea, and it turns into this kind of rocker. Sorry, Angus will be chiming. And that's Angus, my dog, by the way. My dog name's Angus.
Brilliant.
You can't blame him for having a rock and roll attitude.
No, not at all.
Anyway, but yeah, so the record is, you know what, to me, it has that 70s organic vibe, like where you're a 70s hard rock band, we're getting those cuts live off the floor, but there's a modernity to it because Lee, she's a contemporary artist. Like, she's someone who considers herself a contemporary artist, and she's not just sitting back and listening to old records. She references Jack White. She's referencing Green Day. She's Sufjan Stevens, you know, like she's very much in the now with what she's listening to. Me, lesser so. I'm more a 70s, 80s guy. Whereas you know, Dave and Lee, maybe their tastes vary a bit. But you know what? We all appreciate everything. At the end of the day, we're musicians. We're here to thin the thickness of your skin.
Oh,
sorry, I'm dropping a little pie on you.
Brilliant.
But you know what? Honestly, we love music. We all listen to a variety of stuff, classical, jazz, rock, but it's a rock and roll record. It's a high energy rock and roll record with some poignancy. That's how I describe it. A lot of fun, but there's some poignancy and there's some meat on the bone.
Well, we won't even have to write a review now. You just reviewed it for us, so thanks, bud.
Well, I don't know about that, but you know what? As Joe would say, let the music do the talking.
Do the talking.
I'm going to be doing this all night, by the way. I'm not allowed to talk about music like this at home. And I'm having my fruity drink, so look out.
That's quite all right. I'm glad you said that she's got a couple powerful ballads on there, because I've been listening, just to kind of preparation to talk to you, been listening to a lot of Lee Aaron this week, and Barely Holding On is still one of my favorite ballads of hers. But my question for you is, when you're playing live, do you have any classic Lee Aaron tunes that you really especially enjoy playing live?
See, I'm a fan, right? I'm coming at this as a fan. I love, you know what I love playing? I love playing Hot to Be Rocked. When I do that takes me back to watching Much Music and watching John Albany, incredible guitar player. Watching that band. Yeah, I can't grow quite as manly a mustache. But watching that band play at the Camden Pally in London, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen that classic video.
I have it on video. Yeah.
Well, check this out. Years later, in 2012 or 13, I'm on tour with Nelly Furtado.
Yeah.
And we would go during the day, we'd be do all sorts of promo stuff. So Nelly and we would be going out and doing promo. Oh, my wife just came home, boys. Looks like
right.
Oh, and Jack, my son Jack's been here the whole time. Okay, so come on in, Jack. You want to say hi? No, Jack's not sure if he wants to say hi.
That's quite all right. Hey, Jack.
But this is okay.
Hey,
now we're going to hear the barking will become now. No, it's okay. The dog whisperer is here. We're good. So anyway, let me go back to that Camden Pally story. So we were driving around and we had to do this thing for Sky TV. We had to do this acoustic show. So we go to this club called Coco. I'm going, okay. Car drops us off. I'm looking around. I go, was this place ever called anything else? They said, yeah, it's the old Camden Pally. I went, oh, this is where Lee Aaron, this is before I know her, right? This is where Lee Aaron shot that concert video. And I'm going, oh, I'm playing here. So in my mind, you know, I was playing I'm Like a Bird, but in my mind, I was playing Hot to Be Rocked.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So anyway, I love playing that song. I love playing the body rock stuff. I love playing we did Barely Hold It On. It was really cool. Lee played piano, played keyboards on it live when we were over in Europe. She did an amazing job. She's a great piano player. She plays on the record too.
Wow.
And so she did that. And then we did some variations on it where it almost took more of a Hendrixy thing where I'd just be playing a guitar part. But that's the beauty of this band. We can take those classic songs, but you're encouraged to be yourself. We're encouraged to do our own thing with it. That's what the band is. So it's honoring that. I do feel a need to honor those great guitar parts that John Albany created. And some of the other players who came along, like Reeves Gabrell and Knox Chandler. Like, I mean, all those great guitar parts. See, I got my wild colonial boy there in the background.
Good old Dar Erickson says hello.
Oh, hey, how's it going? You got someone saying hi to you there, Jack. You got a friend. So anyway, what were we talking about here?
Camden.
Oh, John,
Palace.
yeah, playing those songs. So yeah, the idea is that there's Desmond. We're gonna get this out of the way, and then that's
We've got all the introductions taken care of.
I told you, boys, that's the way it's gonna be. That's okay. Yeah, it's honoring those songs for the fans' memory, but we play them like it's 2021.
Yeah,
nice.
And that's and playing them play them with our own personalities. I mean, and I think you can hear that on the live record, on the Power Soul Rock and Roll live in Germany record.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of that record. Like, that was recorded. I think someone offered to record it. And we're kind of like, yeah, sure. That's cool. And then we played the Bang Your Head Festival and the record got, the show got recorded. But when we listen to live tracks, it's like, wow, pretty slamming stuff, man. Pretty organic, and she's one of those singers where, her demos sound like finished tracks, man. Like, she can really sing like that. Like, and that's it. Like, that's her singing. That's the way it goes down.
Yeah, it's that album that Hot to Be Rock comes from. That's the Call the Wild record, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
that's a great record. I think I shot you a message months ago when you were talking about, I think, the live album, and I said, you got to bring back Paradise. Love that tune on there. So maybe you can name drop that one for me.
Hey, I can fly it by the committee, but at the end of the day,
Yeah,
I
hear
you.
You.
What? There's just she's got such a breadth of material to draw from, right?
Oh,
so
totally.
And there's always a surprise in the set or something fun. We were doing Lady of the Darkest Night for a while. We did a medley of, I think it was Powerline into Lady of the Darkest Night.
Oh wow.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah, man, it was cool. It's on there on that live record.
Nice.
You know something about live records, I'll tell you that. I don't know if we wanted to get into that one yet, but you do know something about live records.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, you guys lead the way. I'm happy to go wherever. I'm on the train.
Deke usually has a roadmap, and I don't want to trample all over it. Although every week I pretty much trample all over his roadmap.
I'll tell you what I told Andy. I've been waiting since 1985 for a live Coney Hatch album. Right. And boy, did you guys frickin' deliver. It's easily has slid into my all-time top 5 all-time favorite live records.
Oh,
it's up there with Live Bootleg, with Live After Death, with Exit Stage Left. It's so good. I mean, you guys sound phenomenal. I mean, the live stream was phenomenal as well, but the audio on this, you and one guy who doesn't get enough due for his guitar playing is your guitar mate in Coney Hatch, and that's Carl. You guys are boom, just like locked and loaded. Like, holy shit, man, it's so good. You'll be swearing with your kids around. Sorry, but
that's okay. They might be familiar with colorful language.
Yeah, but
way to go, Deke. You just corrupted his kids.
They better not say it themselves. No, just kidding.
No, it just ruined our PG rating on Friday nights. Sorry, Mikey.
Toast.
But yeah, you know what a phenomenal release. And you know what, you guys just totally, I know, blew me out of the water, blew Mike out of the water. I even had to call out my best friend T-Bone for like 40 plus years on a stream and said, T-Bone's got to get Coney Hatch. He went to the Rock Paper Scissors merch site and bought it the next day, and he was more pumped not only to get the record, but to get the
Koozie.
Coney Hatch koozie.
The
So-
koozie.
You can't go wrong with a good piece of swag, and that's a good one, isn't it?
It
Well,
is
let's
very
not-
good.
I don't even think I have one.
curious. I'm curious because you are a music fan.
I am.
Yeah.
We are of the same blood. So we had a dispute last week about the koozie. Do you use the koozie and potentially wear it out, or do you keep it sealed in the package?
Listen, man, I'm going to tell you, I've got a Motley Crue action figure set that sat in its protective casing for years. And I remember I actually was talking to Danko Jones. He's like, dude, don't take that out of there. You can't take it out.
Right.
But my kids one day were like, why do you keep it? I'm going, yeah, why do I? So I took it out, and I'm so glad I did. I have it sitting on my piano now. And when I'm sitting there writing, if I'm starting to get too saccharine on the piano, I take a look, and Mick Mars reminds me I better keep it power chordy, And you know what? I think you got to use it. Use it or lose it for quoting Motley Crue.
Oh, nice.
Well,
nice.
Deke and I are keeping ours sealed just for the record, but
I understand, and I respect that too. It's whatever brings you joy. That's a Marie Kondo thing.
there you go.
Does it spark joy?
And tonight I'm flying the colors, man.
Oh, there you go. You got your hat shirt on. Well done.
Beauty,
Yes, sir.
beauty.
Yeah.
That's a great shirt.
I'm going to put a viewer question up on the screen here because it's a good one. I want to know the answer to this as well. Can you talk about the new Gilby Clarke album?
Well, you know what? I can talk. Yeah, I actually got a nice surprise on that because, first of all, I'm a huge Gilby Clarke fan.
Mhm.
That's
I know.
It starts with me with Gilby because I saw them play. I saw Guns play with Metallica and Faith No More at the C&E back in 93 or 92. Yeah, 92, I guess it was.
Yeah.
And, I was a massive Izzy Stradlin fan, but when I saw Gilby up there, I was like, check this guy out. Like, this guy is just as cool. Like, I mean, they found the other guy in LA who was as cool as Izzy. And, great player. I was so impressed. But it was, I think, 94. It was 94. When I saw the video for Cure Me or Kill Me from his solo record, I remember what was happening in 93, 94, right? We're in the heart of grunge and alternative rock. Some of that stuff's really good, but it did not speak to my heart. Mm-hmm. That music does not speak to my heart the way that the music of the 80s did. Just doesn't. But when I heard that, I went, this is my music. Like this is the guy. Yeah. And then when I got Pawn Shop Guitars, I always say this, that record was one of those records that restored my faith. It was like, because I was kind of lost, I had been, moved to Toronto when I was 18 and was kind of playing in bands and things were looking good. Did a record with the bass player from The Cult, Jamie Stewart, producing. Did all these things, I had cool hair, had cowboy boots. I looked cool, I thought. Then all of a sudden, Nirvana comes out. I look at my boots. I feel stupid. People are laughing at the way I look. Spandex isn't cool. Okay, this is like things change so rapidly. A lot of the 90s for me was trying to find out who I was and where I fit, being a young guy, but not really loving the music of that era.
Yeah,
as much as I loved the music prior. There was amazing music that came out, obviously, but Gilby Clarke, when I heard Pawn Shop Guitar, there's rock and roll. There's still great rock and roll. So I'm a fan. I listen to Pawn Shop Guitar in and out. And I was living in Vancouver at the time it came out. And I remember buying it and just, man, this is the stuff. Sorry, I'm really taking a long way to get to the question about this record. But Gilby and I have a relationship, and I think it serves a story to talk about it. So years later, when I put my band Crash Kelly together and I, make my first record, I started thinking about who I'd want to produce my second record. And I knew Gilby had been producing. I said, I want Gilby Clarke. And it just so happened that I reached out to Gilby at the same time that a record label called Liquor and Poker Music, which was part of the Century Media family, big heavy metal label in LA. They just started a rock imprint called Liquor and Poker Music with Hanoi Rocks and Backyard Babies and the Helicopters. And they expressed interest in Crash Kelly. Just as we kind of signed our deal with them, Gilby heard my record and said, I love your record. I want to, like, he loved Penny Pills, the independent record we did. Talk to my manager. I'm going, unbelievable. So got in touch with his manager. Met Gilby when we were in LA doing showcases. Hit it off. This is clearly the guy who's got to produce our next record. He went down. We went to LA and we made the Electric Satisfaction record at Gilby's studio. But beyond just being a great producer, Gilby and I hit it off. Like, we were talking like bands like Stars we were talking about. and just the way that we talked about an old Kiss record or an Alice Cooper record, we just hit it off and kind of almost a big brother, little brother type situation starts happening, right? Like, I'm looking up to this guy. He's teaching me how to make records. I'm glad I was smart enough to shut up and listen. I wasn't that smart. Trust me, when I was younger making records, I had a few producers tell me, have to put me in my place a few times, because trust me, you never know more in your life than you do when you're 19.
Yeah.
I know much less now. But, he showed me so much about making records that I was kind of open to it. And a few years later, and I made another record with Gilby, and Crash Kelly went on tour with them. And, we kind of kept a relationship. But what happened was he needed a bass player and a drummer for a Canadian tour. And he reached out to me to play bass in the band. And we got my buddy Dave Langeth, who played with me in Nelly's band, Nelly Furtado's band. And also he plays with Kim Mitchell now, Streetheart, great drummer, amazing drummer, good guy. And we went out and played in Gilby's band. So we went out and did a Canadian date, and it was so much fun. He asked us to go to South America too. Dave unfortunately had an injury, so he couldn't go to South America. Dennis Morehouse did the tour with us, and Dennis is an amazing drummer from LA. But Gilby and I, stayed in touch, and I did a bunch of gigs with Gilby over the years, and we did guitar clinics. We did a bunch of stuff, and I always stayed in touch. But one of the things we did after that South American tour, or maybe it was some US dates, I can't remember exactly, but Gilby flew us out to LA to do some sessions. And this is 2011 or 2012 or something. And so we actually went to Butch Walker's studio in Malibu. Amazing. That was Dylan's old studio, right? Like crazy. And, yeah. So we ended up cutting some tracks, but what's funny? We didn't use any of the tracks from there. We ended up going back to Gilby's house, and Gilby's got a great studio. But we worked on tracks, and nothing, sometimes we were just demoing, or, Gilby wanted to try some stuff. Anyway, about maybe 4 weeks before the record, Gilby goes, "Dude, I was doing an interview. I forgot to tell you, you're on the record. I used one of those tracks." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you're on Rusted and Busted. It's you on bass." I was like, "Amazing." So long story short, I got on the new Gilby Clarke. I'm on the new Gilby album playing bass on a song called Rusted and Busted. But I'll tell you, that whole Gospel Truth album is killer. Nikki Sixx is playing bass on one track. Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction. Kenny Aronoff from Mellencamp. Like, great players. What a thrill to be a part of that. But beyond the stars, it's a real thrill for me to be on a record with somebody I admire as much as Gilby, and not just as a musician, as a friend and as a person. Like, that guy, salt of the earth. There's no rock star attitude with him, but there's a great rock and roll attitude. Big difference between a rock and roll attitude and a rock star attitude, by the way.
Yeah, he comes across as a very down to earth kind of guy. Have to ask you about that Gilby album. It's like you said, it's a great record, and Rusted and Busted is a very good song as well. And everybody should check it out. Like, come on, people, if you're watching, check it out. But since you kind of got on the topic of Crash Kelly, I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about that band. Sure. Meaning where the name Crash Kelly came supposedly from your uncle.
That's right.
Right? Who is kind of a tough hockey player. So I kind of pulled up some stats here.
Oh, wow. Okay. Deep dive. All right.
This guy does his research.
Deep dive on Uncle Orv. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't take full credit for this. My buddy T-Bone reached out to me, shot me a message. He says, "Hey, Sean's band Crash Kelly?" Well, it's actually, and I thought you were Crash Kelly, but actually your uncle was the original Crash Kelly. And in 1951,
you wouldn't call me Crash anything. Crash into the boards and sit in the bench, baby.
So back in 1951, he threw up 146 penalty minutes, And followed by in 1955, he threw up another 145 minutes. So, boy, he liked to throw some haymakers. But he played for the Johnstown Jets.
Yeah.
And supposedly the word on the street is that the movie Slapshot was based on that team, which they renamed it the Charlestown Chiefs in
That's right.
the movie. So pretty cool backstory there. I mean,
well, the real cool part is my dad was a pro hockey player too. My dad went down and joined them in Johnstown. So there was 2 Kellys. They might have been the original Hansons.
Oh my God.
yeah. There we go.
You know, and yeah, like, so I named the band. Growing up in a family of hockey players, like my uncle Leo Labine, NHL hockey player, my dad Memorial Cup winner, junior hockey, Eastern League, my uncle American League, cousins in the NHL, so it was a big hockey family. I loved playing hockey. I had none of the ability, and I wasn't, let's put it this way. I heard a lot of footsteps. I wasn't too keen to go digging in the corners. I didn't want that puck that bad. After getting my bell rung a few times, and trust me, playing up in North Bay with long hair, and you still got the Aquanet or whatever you were putting in it from the night before, playing at the bar. Not a good. You're basically asking for a beating, right? But anyway, I really admired it. They were legendary. They were larger than life people, but not just for playing hockey. They were guys who grew up in this kind of idyllic town called Temiskaming, Quebec, which was actually owned by a pulp and paper company. It was like a mill town, but imagine like Smallville, USA or something, like a picture perfect town. But you've got that freedom, like these incredible adventures. So I'd hear all these stories about not only my Uncle Orv Crash and my dad, Des Kelly, but my Uncle Bud. Like, they were all amazing athletes, great guys, storytellers par excellence. My dad's favorite saying was, "I already told you more than I know." And like characters, right? Yeah. And growing up with those kind of stories was very inspiring, and it makes you dream big and think of life as an adventure and fun. And when I started doing my own thing, I said, and Uncle Orv had passed at that point. All three have now passed at this point. They're on that big rink in the sky somewhere, which is good for them. I'm sure they're happy. But it was a tribute to them. It was a tribute to my Uncle Orv in name, but it was a tribute to all of them. Really, that's what it was about. It was about humanity. And a lot of the songs I was writing on that first record were about the human condition, faults and redemption, and how should I put this? It's like, sometimes you can waver off the path sometimes in the name of a good time, but you always come back and you straighten out in the end, like we all do. Anyway, that's where it came from. That was the inspiration for the name, as a tribute to my family.
You didn't get any of the hockey genes, but somehow you got all the music genes.
Well, my mom's musical. My mom was very musical and very supportive. In fact, she got me my first pro gig, which was playing in the Pro Cathedral of the Assumption Church Choir.
Wow.
I had a great gig, I got to tell you, in high school. I was a church musician. I used to play at the funerals, and then I got a gig working at the cemetery, so I'd go up and bury him after, too.
Wow.
I had a suit on, and I'd play guitar, and I'd hop over and go up and put on the overalls and be in there helping dig the grave. That's the truth.
That's incredible.
I mean, mostly cutting the grass, let's face it,
I think you and Rod Stewart are the only two people I know that have had
Ozzy. Oh,
Ozzy too. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're in good company at least.
Yeah. But that was a great gig, because that was it was a fellow named Robert Palange was a choir director there, and he was amazing musician, right? He was trained at St. Mike's in Toronto, St. Mike's Choir School, and so I got to have that kind of breadth of experience of reading and playing with an organist and feeling different senses of time. Like, it was, playing with singers. I used to have to play. I played with a beautiful, beautiful singer named Julianne Burnett. Rest in peace, Julianne. And she was so good. Like, to hear a really great singer like that, I'm sure that really prepared me down the road for doing the gigs with Nelly and with Lee and playing with like Carl and Andy and like, M. Griner, playing with great singers, Carol Pope, I've had a chance to play guitar backing up some of the best singers in the world, I believe. And, I think I got that training there in North Bay.
Fantastic.
Speaking of North Bay, let's talk about you growing up there for a bit. Now, in your Metal on Ice book that came out, which is another read that everybody should check out and get into because it came with this supplemental CD. Was music, like when the new releases came out, did you have easy access? Like were the records showing up in North Bay, or did you have to go out like to Toronto or to,
growing up, you know what? In a pre-internet age, and even for me, late to much music because it was a pay station, right? Like, I mean,
pay TV,
It was all about buying rock magazines from the grocery store or from the Shoppers Drug Mart, like you'd get a rock magazine and then try and piece together over the course of 2 months or till the next one came out, what was going on in the scene. And then you go to the record store and maybe you'd see things, but I never knew when a record was coming out. It just sort of would appear somehow in my social circle, like all of a sudden, hey, Quiet Riot or Def Leppard's here. Like this and that. There was always someone way cooler than me who had access to something, right? Or you're in the hockey dressing room and some kid's blasting Iron Maiden. Or, you go to Woolco or you go to Woolworths and you walk by the audio visual center and someone's popped in a VHS cassette of Run to the Hills. You're like, oh, that's cool. What's that? The local Capitol Records guy came up to North Bay on his way, I don't know, God knows where, Sudbury maybe, and he stopped by had his VHS copies of all the promo videos. I don't know. So I wasn't aware of when a new record come out. It would just kind of appear. Later on, I started to become more aware, as you're starting to watch Power Hour, know that a record's coming out, or starting to piece things together about how things work. But to me, it was all just part of the great mystery of rock. All right, this is in my life now. Great. And I didn't have tons of money to spend on records.
Right.
If I had any money to spend, and I think that's a good thing though, because then you buy a record. Maybe they were crap. I don't know, but I loved them. I made myself love them.
You didn't have a choice back then. You only had like 30 records to play if you were lucky.
If you're lucky, right?
Yeah.
And for a long time, I thought the greatest rock record of all time was Great White's Live Recovery because it had a bunch of cover versions. I was like, wow, I've got a Beatles song, a Who song, and a Led Zeppelin song. This is the record to buy. But that's why I used to buy live records, right? Like I bought Wasp Live in the Rock, not because I was excited for the live record experience. I had all the hits.
Right.
You get all the hits for one. I get my bag. But that did develop something in me, a love of live records. So to have in the last 2 years to be on 2 live records with 2 of the greatest Canadian artists of all time, what a thrill, what an unbelievable thrill.
I can relate to that story. I bought Triumph Stages because I needed some Triumph in my life, and it had all the songs, right? It ended up being a brilliant live album, as Duke is well aware too.
Yeah. And that's like with me with like I'm a little older than you guys, but back in early '81 when Rush's Moving Pictures hit huge, I was in grade 9 in high school, and everybody was buying moving pictures. I didn't have enough money to go buy the whole back catalog of Rush, so I bought all the rolls of Stage.
There you go.
Right.
And it was like same thing, right? It was like all their hits, Rush hits, as you guess you could call them. And it's like, wow, man, these guys don't sound anything like I'm listening to now on Moving Pictures. But you know what? It was it was like a whole different animal. But it was a good way. And same with Once Exit Stage Left came out later that year. It was the same thing. It was like, hey, cool, I got all like their big stuff, and you eventually start picking away. But I was just kind of interested in Sean, just to hear. I'm always fascinated to hear like people who grew up in North Bay is almost similar size to Thunder Bay, and we have stuff in common, just like you wrote in your book about Helix and Honeymoon Suite bringing the Long Way to Heaven tour through North Bay, and I saw that show either probably the night before you or the night after, one way or the other. And yeah, you know, you cannot beat those memories. And then there you are, end up working with both those bands.
I know. You know who pointed it out to me? And it sounds so, I hope this doesn't come across as arrogant or big-headed, but it was Dee Snider. I did a musical with Dee, right? I did a musical called Dee Snider's Rock and Roll Christmas Tale, where I
Right.
with Dee, and you know, Dee is the actual reason I play guitar. He wrote the song that made me play guitar. Like, he's the real reason. We're not going to take it as why I needed a guitar. Wow. So he goes, I gave him a copy of the book. We were in rehearsals, and we were at the CBC doing rehearsals. And one day I said, "Hey, Dee, I don't know if you're interested, but here's a book I wrote about." Yeah, okay, I'll check it out. You know, Dee. I don't think he's going to. But Dee Snider is a man of his word. If he said he's going to read it, he's going to read it. He's also going to probably tell you if he doesn't like it, right?
Yeah.
But you know what? He said, that was a really good book, man. It was a great book. He goes, don't you think it's a little weird, though? What? He goes, all these things that you've done, you know, you ended up, you didn't just get inspired, you actually joined the band. So that's weird. I'm going, yeah, it is kind of weird, come to think of it. Like, I ended up kind of, wasn't a plan of mine. It wasn't like when I was watching Helix, I didn't say, I'm going to be in Helix or I'm going to play with those guys. Like, that wasn't it. But but somehow it ended up, and even with Dee, you know, playing that song with Dee Snider on stage, like, that's kind of weird, right? And very, man, but it's not lost on me how lucky I was to have done that either. So
No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind using that as a segue to ask you about another new track that you're involved with.
Yeah, man.
Called, I believe it's called Not My Clowns, Not My Circus.
Oh, Not My Circus, Not My Clowns.
Right. So Brian was saying that he's recorded a new Helix track and you're involved with that one. What can you tell us?
Well, you know, Brian and I, like, I mean, our relationship goes back a long way, right? Like, I got to thank Mitch Lafone. I bugged Brian Ball. I did bug Brian Ballmer for years to join Helix. He'd kind of bat me away, you know, in a nice way. He'd answer the email, but I'm not looking. And then one day they were looking for a bass player.
Right.
Mitch Lafone stepped up, said, "Well, you know, why don't you try Sean Kelly out?" And he goes, "All right, okay, I'll give him a try," you know. And I remember I went out and I auditioned, and you know, went well. I got the gig. But it was so funny. This is the God's honest truth. First thing he says to me, he goes, hands me like a band agreement and everything. Very professional. He goes, look, you're not going to be playing on any records, and I've already got a co-writer. So just so you know, you don't play on the records, you just play live. Got it? I went, yeah. Which I of course took to mean I'm going to write some songs with you and I'm going to play on your records. So we were backstage someplace at a gig. And, you know, I'm fiddling around. Brian goes, well, first of all, he didn't know I played guitar. He just thought it was, you know, a bass player, right? I was picking guitar, and he heard something. What's that? Nothing. You know, meanwhile, I'm going, please ask me again. And I played him a song, and it ended up being a song called When the Bitters Got the Better of You.
Love that tune.
Well, thank you. And he heard it, and we started writing. And from there, all of a sudden, we're writing partners, and we're writing the new Helix record. I can't believe this. Like, this is a dream come true. You know, and now, and I'm playing guitar on the stuff too. Like, you know, it was fantastic because the guitar player at the time had moved on. Jim had moved on, and so it's Brent Turner and I playing guitar on a record. I'm playing with the Doctor. Brent's an astoundingly great guitar player.
Yes,
he's so humble about it. But he's an incredible player. So what a thrill. So we're playing guitar. And in the middle of all this great stuff, thank you. In the middle of all this great stuff, I get a call to go audition for Nelly Furtado.
Wow.
Who is the biggest pop star in the world at this time. And through my guitar tech, an old guitar tech, I used to be in a band with Nick Walsh from Slick Toxic. We had a band called Revolver. And
okay.
My good friend Damon Enright was a guitar tech, and any guitar tech for Crash Kelly. He said, "Hey man, Nelly's looking for a guitar player," and he knew I played classical guitar. She had a Spanish record coming out, so they want someone to play Spanish guitar, play electric guitar. But my first instinct was, I am the wrong guy for this gig. I don't play that music. I'm a rock guy. he's going, nah, dude, we go all over the world. You got to come, man. It's a great gig. You know, give it a try. Like, I walk down, and it's funny. The first thing the music director says is, will you cut your hair? I'm like, no. I'm not cutting my hair. He goes, I don't know. You think I could play in Helix? Like he was kind of like you're this guy from Helix is coming to play, but I played guitar and we hit it off, and then, you know, and it went well with Audition. And then, you know, I got the gig, and then I had to tell Brian, I was moving on. But you know what, Brian Vollmer, he was so great about it. He said, I'd never hold you back from anything, and we continued a writing relationship onward after we did the Bastard of the Blues record. I ended up co-producing the Smash Hits Unplugged record that came out on EMI. We did a bunch of EPs. We still write, but you know what? At the end of the day, beyond the music, he's one of my best friends in the world. He's it's just friendship. That's pure and simple. So that's a long way of telling you that, yeah, you know, they had this new song, which is a great track. It was pretty much done, man. But Brian said, hey, is there anything you might be hearing on this? And I just said, hey, maybe this. And they fortunately, he liked it. And yeah, I played some guitar on it. I added a couple of ideas, and that's it. And I'm honored. Hey, listen, it's always a thrill to throw on a Helix track and realize it's my guitar along, you know, Daryl Gray and Fritz, and, you know, Brian, and then Gary and Chris Julke, like Gary Borden, like great players, man. So anytime you get asked to play along with great players like that, it's a thrill and an honor.
I was going to mention every cloud has a silver lining, and if I'm not mistaken, when you were unable to play bass for Helix anymore, I believe that opened the door for Daryl Gray to come back. So you know, we had this great reunion of the '80s, the surviving members of the. Well, 80s.
That's it. We got, like, on Vagabond Bones, you've got the you've got the original '80s lineup, and you know, rest in peace, Paul Hackman. You know, it would have been obviously amazing to see what he'd be doing now. He was such a strong writer and a wonderful guitar player.
Yeah.
You know, but man, what a thrill, you know. And
I always
Vagabond Bones is a smoke and rock and roll record, man.
I played all the Helix records that you're on. I played them all this week. You know, I crammed. And I thought The Animal Inside, just killer. Metal at Midnight, killer. I see you smiling. I thought that might have been sort of a Sean Kelly track. Metal at Midnight just struck me as Sean Kelly.
It is. It's definitely. I got to run with that one. I got the ball.
I thought so. I love it.
Thank you.
You know, I don't want to just take up all my time just yammering about all the great stuff you've done in Helix, but people, buy some of these recent Helix albums. I'm serious. Vagabond Bones, Bastard of the Blues. They're freaking great.
Well,
they really are.
I really appreciate that. I'm really proud of those records. And they really stand up. And you know what? Brian Vollmer's a great songwriter. Yes. He's taught me so much as a writer. Like, you know, he's methodical, but he's not so methodical that he gets in the way of inspiration or spontaneity. And also on that Vagabond Bones record, we had Mo Berg writing from Pursuit of Happiness.
True. Yeah.
And Mo's obviously an amazing songwriter.
And another buddy of yours, Russ Dwarf, was singing on that album.
Yeah, that's right. Russ is on Hungover, but still hanging in.
Yeah. And he was on the Metal on Ice EP.
Oh, man. There's another guy. Incredible musician, incredible writer. Yeah.
I love that. It really is what we're getting out of you tonight is what you said right at the very start of the interview when you said your rock and roll family. And we're really getting a sense of that tonight.
Yeah. And with every, you know, especially when you go through something like we've all been through with this thing, you know, you realize actually Dave Reimer, my brother in Lee Aaron's band, he says it all the time. And he's such a warm, genuine guy. He says, man, one day, one of these shows, he says it always backstage, one day, one of these is going to be the last one we do. And so he really appreciates it, right? And when I watch a guy like that, and Dave, to give you a background, like Bryan Adams, Headpins, like, I mean, Barney Bentall and Legendary Hearts. The guy co-wrote that song, Do Ya, a Canadian classic.
Oh, wow.
Right.
So he's done all this stuff. He's an amazing luthier, but on top of all that, he still goes in there with that attitude every gig. I have no excuse not to bring my A game every time. If people like that are still bringing that kind of passion and intensity to it, then that's my responsibility to at least try to match it, right?
Yeah. That's great to have a guy like that in the band, because if you go up, I guess if you're feeling a little tired or sluggish, you just have to look over and just see Buddy, your partner in crime, just giving her.
He's giving her.
Yeah,
He's giving her. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Now, speaking of, I haven't talked to Andy about this because we're actually getting him back for a third part of our interview because we've had so much stuff, and Andy's been willing to come back and let me throw another 1,000 questions at him. But
I think he really enjoyed that from the sounds of it.
That's good. He hasn't blocked me and Mike yet, so I guess he did. but speaking of new tracks, there's a couple of new Coney tunes that you guys were working on. Now, I don't know if you can say too much, but if you want to just tell me and Mike, we won't tell nobody.
Yeah, we won't.
Listen. No, you know what? I'll tell you, these new songs are rocking. I have to resist the urge. I bet you Andy Kern regrets giving me his cell phone number. I'm like the pesky little brother. You know what would be cool? You know what we should do? Great, Spike. No, those songs rock. And,
nice.
And we went in the studio, and man, it was great. There was a great chemistry between us all in the studio too. And I want to go back, Deke, to what you were saying earlier about Carl Dixon being a great guitar player. Man, that's where when we were working in the studio together, getting that Vulcan mind meld guitar thing, it was really pretty effortless. And I was blown away at how quickly Carl could come up with complementary guitar ideas. It's just like the guy's just constantly musical. Like, it's insane. And he played some great lead stuff on there too. And yeah, the new tracks are great. And there's a classic Dixon and a classic Kern. That's all I can say. If you're a Coney fan, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And who knows where it's going? It's the beauty of rock and roll. There's always possibilities, but we're also in this brave new world where you don't have to follow the rules of waiting around for labels and stuff. So who knows? Who knows? Like, this idea they did with the Live at the Elmo record, making it the official bootleg. Yeah. So cool. Yeah. I mean, it's the coolest. Like, the idea, and it's coming from that right place, right? Kern's remembering flipping through old circus magazines and buying bootlegs. That's the stuff. That's the stuff that makes that stuff authentic, right?
And the fact that it's basically what I've told people is support local, man. Like, you guys did this yourself with no outside influence. This is a Coney Hatch, man. Like, it's like, Andy, like you said, they all personally stamped each album. You guys all signed it. The album was going Purelator to Thunder Bay and back and forth everywhere, and to get the signatures and stuff. I mean, how can you not support something like that? I mean, I've been pushing. Me and Mike have been pushing this since the day it came into our mailboxes. I mean, it's such a mind blower.
Thank you for that.
And it's so good. I could talk to you about 3 hours about this record, but it's all my favorite Coney tunes. And like I said, like you, Andy, and Carl, especially when you guys lock up on tunes like Wrong Side of Town, like, it's so heavy yet not heavy to the point of like, it's just so classic, like just classic rock. But
I think we were in. Sorry to cut you up.
No,
but
it's all good.
We're in that, even though the Elmo is now, it's not, what does Andy say? It's not your dad's Elmo, right? Like, it's a completely top flight rock and roll venue. Like, I played a lot of nice rooms, man. I've been very lucky, but there's no place like the Elmo. State of the art. But you've got a guy like Doug McClement behind the board, mixing that and capturing it. Doug was the guy who captured that classic Stevie Ray Live at the Elmo record. He recorded that Cars Live at the Elmo combo. So he's recording it with those ears, that sense of tradition, and all that ability. And then we have a guy named Vic Florencia mixing it. So it's getting, like, I mean, that record, I'm so proud of how it sounds. And the performances, and and so fortunate. I mean, this happened during COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
No one gets a gig, but we get to make a live record. Come on. I mean, this is unbelievable, right?
That's awesome.
That was one of the few things.
I don't know what happened.
That was one of the few things that we had to look forward to during COVID. It's been a sucky time, and we're finally seeing some more new music coming out. I don't think you can answer this question. We might have to ask Andy himself, but Kevin here is wondering where the Coney tracks are coming out.
I don't know, but you know what? I mean, I maybe I can talk out of school a little bit. I think I've heard these guys talk. Listen, I'm just a new guy, right? I don't want to get spanked.
We can ask Andy next time.
We can hit up Andy for sure.
Yeah, but you know what? I will say this: there's another live record in the can. Did you know that?
Yes. He did tell us that. Yes,
and I'm telling you, the Elmo one is unbelievable, right? It's got its own thing. But if you want one that's off the rails where you got the crowd raging, oh man, this Live in Germany show is pretty happening, man. It's pretty happening. It's very, very special to have those two recordings in the can for me, even for my own memories. So I'll let those guys talk about it. But you know what? They both have their charms, and there's a different set list, which is cool. There's a different set
Andy was mentioning that as well. Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. I'm not in trouble.
You're not in trouble, no. And I'm just going to speculate that because you brought up the live album, that it's going to be a Kiss Alive 2 situation where you got some studio tracks on the live. But that's just me. You don't have to confirm or deny.
Yeah, man. I just show up, I look at the set list, and Ketchum counts it out, and that's it. We go.
Nice.
That's awesome. So you're also currently working on a second book. Can you give us any scoops about that?
Yeah, you know what? I can. I've signed with a company called ECW, amazing publisher. Neil Peart did his last books with ECW. Martin Popoff, my good friend, writes a lot of books for them. Great music book company, and it's funny. I'm about halfway done. I really need to get. I'm an elementary school music teacher. So I really got to get through the end of this school year, and this summer I'm gonna, with COVID affecting all the gigs, this is where I'm gonna really hit it. But I'm about halfway done, and what it started off with it's becoming much more personal. I already thought I did the personal thing with Metal on Ice, and I tried to stay away from it, but my editor has pulled out some other things from me, and what it is, it's basically, I'm trying to reclaim what's pejoratively known as hair metal. I'm trying to reclaim it as proper rock and roll. I'm trying to make an argument that what so many people lump into this one facile category called hair metal is actually a pretty rich ecosystem of many different things that comes from many different paths. Yeah. And for some reason, it's been lumped into hairstyle. I mean, we don't call rockabilly greaser pompadour rock, right?
Yeah, it's true.
And we don't call new wave flock of seagulls aerodynamic hair rock, but for some reason the hairdo got attached to this, right? So this whole thing about hairdo, I actually go into a little bit of this historical look at what hair meant to people and musicians, and they go into the Baroque kind of studies of wigs and all this. Just looking at it, it's like, what was it about this about this music that caused it? And I mean, I understand that there were refinements and formulas, but in that there was so much great music that actually had depth and diversity and artistic intent, and that a lot of it should be called rock and roll. People go, hair metal. Yeah. Like for example, taking a pot shot. I find this all the time as a musician. Here's a term I hate. I see my authors coming out now. Now my writer's coming out. Friendly rock guy Sean's going away, and now grumpy writer's coming in.
Awesome.
I'm not too grumpy, but
nice.
You know what? Nothing pisses me off more than when people say, "Oh yeah, Faster Pussycat. That's a real guilty pleasure for me." Guilty pleasure. I hate that word. What do you mean guilty pleasure? Like you in one sentence, you've demeaned it while you're admitting that you like it. So where along, why do you feel that you have to protect this identity within yourself by disparaging this music that you actually like?
Yeah.
Why can't you find the strand of connectivity to what you love about it? And I'll tell you, I'm gonna go public with this. I picked up a copy of Guitar Player magazine recently. There was a review, and this isn't hair metal. Some guy did a retroactive review of the first Boston album.
Oh,
and he was so dismissive, despite all of its, pomposity and all of its, overt arena rockisms. It's actually still really good and close to my heart. I was ready to find the guy and smack him because I'm going, how dare you?
Oh no.
Somebody who finds value in that. It just drove me nuts.
yeah.
And it's like, why do you feel this need to disparage while at the same time enjoy it? To me, it's the ultimate selfishness. Why don't you try and make some more of a, make more of an attempt at connection with it? So anyway, this is the emotional reason behind it. But then it's kind of, I think my editor saw this in my writing and said, well, why don't make the connections in your own career as you're going through? And then I started getting personal, and it's like, oh man, I'm getting emotional here. I'm right. So there's something else that's kind of coming out of this book that was going to be, initially I was going to call it hair metal for hipsters. And it was going to be like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to school you on all this stuff, right? You hipsters. Yeah. And it was going to be sardonic. And then I realized that's not actually who I am as a person. I'm not a smart ass sardonic. I'm a little bit of a smart ass, but I don't like making people feel small. So if people are making me feel bad about music, it doesn't make sense to try and one up them.
Right.
So I said, okay, so let's find the gateway. And the gateway is connectivity to what you think is cool. So hopefully what I'm going to do is, as I go through the eras and the development of music and hard rock in the 80s, hopefully we can find the strand of connectivity of the best stuff. Because there was some, listen, there, like in any genre, there's going to be some music that or some art that's maybe doesn't rise to the same level. I mean, and there's lots of reasons why people might have problems with some of the lyrical content.
Sure.
And I get that. And then also, we're also talking, the height of Reaganomics, the height of excess, the height of the me generation, where things have become formulaic, refined to the point where companies are signing bands because they have a W in their name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. You can't separate the music from the time in which it was created. That's
no.
Yeah. I think that's a thing. And if you strip away, and it's funny though, because a lot of times people say this, they say, oh, but if you took away the production, the production was so horrendous. Oh, this took away the production. Production wasn't horrendous. In the context, it was fresh. It was exciting. There was new technology, digital technologies. It was something new. It was different. It was exciting. And it's funny, when I go and put those records, now getting back into vinyl, and I go put on a record like Hysteria, that's where I really realize what a genius Mutt Lange is.
Yes.
Because that record was made to be heard on vinyl. And then you're getting this clarity along with the warmth. When the CD comes in and we have more clarity, remember there was always a disclaimer, limitations of the source, may be noticed in this transfer. People had to learn how to remaster and everything. It wasn't, it was a different beast, right? So that's what the book's about today.
I love it. I love it.
Talk to me next week, and we'll see where I still have to hit up a bunch of people and talk to them, because when you go down this road, sometimes you think you're defending someone, and you talk to the person and go, "No, you're wrong. It was crap." It's like, oh, no.
Hey, Sean, buddy of yours is saying hi here.
Oh, Phrase. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Mike, I actually hit up Mike. Hopefully, he will still be amenable to being interviewed for the book, because I want to talk about some of the things are on a technical level, like the sounds of records, and why do people sort of relate certain sounds with being cool and certain sounds being uncool? Why is amount of reverb a factor in someone's artistic interpretation of a piece of music? It's interesting, right?
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
If this facilitates you and Mike collaborating on a chapter of the book, this automatically means you have to give Deacon I a thank you. So just FYI, FYI,
No
put it up there.
problem.
You know
No
what?
problem.
No, you know what? We'll say it right now. Me, Mikey, you just have to promise you'll come back and plug your book on our stream.
Yeah,
That's all we ask.
With pleasure. With pleasure.
Okay, so speaking of books, now
Yeah.
if anybody's into social media, you guys have to follow Sean, especially on Sean Kelly Guitar at Instagram, because I want to talk about a couple of books here that you featured that I picked up that are stellar reads. And
Ooh.
the fact is, you're in both of them that I bought. And you probably know where I'm going with this. So
Okay,
I'm curious.
the first one,
Oh, right.
now, it's a very good read. I reviewed it a few weeks ago, and I said everybody's got to get a copy of this book. It's so well done, like the dynamics of the four bands. But you are in there with a story about your band 69 Duster, and I didn't purposely put it in my review because I want you to tell us the story about the time you were backstage and met Cheap Trick.
Right. Well, yeah. So a band that I was in, the reason I moved to Vancouver from Toronto when I was young was I started writing with a guy named Dale Martindale. And Dale is the singer of Images in Vogue, great Canadian band. So I met Dale in Toronto, and we formed a band called 69 Duster. And we started getting a little bit of interest from publishing companies and record labels. But he said, dude, I'm moving to Vancouver. Like my wife and I are planning to move to Vancouver. And I said, well, you know, I really love writing with this guy. I want to keep going. So I ended up moving to Vancouver too. And we got 69 Duster off the ground in Vancouver. A friend of mine, Barb Seeden, hooked us up with a producer named Kevin Hamilton, who just done the Moist record. And we did some demos there and, you know, kind of shopped around and did some playing. I remember we did some great shows. We did a couple of shows at Art Bergman, Gastown Music Hall, Matthew Good, a few other people. Anyway, long story short, we ended up realizing most of the interest we were getting was back in Toronto. So we ended up moving back to Toronto. But we made a record, hooked up with some new players, made an independent record called Mania, which is actually getting reissued this year.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
This summer, we just signed a deal with the bass player. Has a company called Hard Music, a music library company, and he has a label.
Telephone. I'll be back.
No problem. It's just me. I'm just calling to see what you're doing later. He has a label, and he said, "Hey man, maybe we should reissue this 69 Duster record." So it's getting remastered, and there's some really cool tunes. That record came out in '96, and we were really into bands like Space Hog and Imperial Drag and kind of, Stone Temple Pilots glammier side, trying to kind of capture that resurgence of 70s glam that was happening in 90s music. Right. Anyway, made a record. All that to say, I'm working at Tower Records at the time. And through Tower Records, I think I must have got the tickets through Robert Lawson, who wrote a great book about Cheap Trick, who you might be talking about. That might be your next book. I don't know.
We're having him on the show June 18th.
Oh, okay, there you go. So we get tickets to go see Cheap Trick. I remember they had just put out this great record and through an indie called Red Ant, and Red Ant went all out for Cheap Trick. Lots of promo. So they're giving away tickets, and we went, and they came with backstage passes. It was Cheap Trick and ZZ Top. So we go backstage, and I've got a copy of the 69 Duster record because God knows nobody has ever approached anybody in Cheap Trick and said they were influenced by them and tried to give them a record, right? I think this is a very unique idea. Maybe not so much. Anyway, those guys were hilarious, total smart asses, just hammering away on us, right? Like, but in a good natured way. And I'll never forget, like, I corner Rick Nielsen and I go, Rick, I'm a big fan, really inspired by your songwriting. I just wanted to give you a copy of my CD. And he takes a look at it and he goes, thanks, pal. This will be on the side of the highway in about 3 hours. And I'm like, what just happened? Anyway, it was cool. But you know what? The highlight was I got to have chicken wings with Bunny Carlos. So
that's the best.
That's a pretty good. And when Bunny is looking over and going, good wings. I'm going, good wings. Good night. It was great. So that's my little brush with Cheap Trick.
And speaking of which, here is the still competition.
And there's a picture in there from that night.
Mike, make the screen big, buddy.
You got it.
Yeah.
Oh man, you've got it.
Oh, hang on, guys.
Okay.
Who is that? Oh, I can't do this, man. I can never be a teacher. Here. Who is that
the goatee guy or the guy in the back?
Yeah, the guy in the back.
The clean cut guy?
The guy beside to the left, to Bunny Carlos's left. This shot is probably post
right there.
Post Rick Nielsen breaking my heart, but pre chicken wings.
So
yeah. Awesome. Anyway, you know what? It's so funny. When I was younger, what I think about then was I was so desperate to make some kind of mark in music at that point, and to get some kind of, I don't know, affirmation from a record label or a manager. You don't realize all the great things that are happening to you right then and there. You're just trying to move the needle, you know, you're trying to move forward. Yeah. You're so ambitious. You're so hungry for it. But I look back on that, like, that's just, how cool is that? You know, right. I got a chance to hang out and do something stupid with Cheap Trick. Like, I mean, that's great.
Good wings.
And then my wings. And then my buddy, you know, Doug Broad, and Doug's a good pal of mine now. He lives in Toronto, but you know, he was the editor of Spin magazine. Yeah. But he really liked my band Crash Kelly, and he reviewed Crash Kelly in Spin magazine when
oh, no way.
Like, I mean, I couldn't believe it, you know, like we were getting some press. And there was that time when Crash Kelly came out where it felt like maybe with the darkness, things were moving that way. We went over to England and we toured with the Choir Boys. People were playing our music. We heard our music in clubs. Like, we're going to make it. And we didn't make it.
Yeah.
Hey, LaFone's here. Did Mitch, I hope Mitch heard me saying nice things about him.
I hope so. Hey,
you guys have to vouch for me.
Maybe since we know Mitch is watching right now, maybe you can tell us real quick, because I think he was somehow involved with getting you hooked up with the ex-members of Fraley's Comet and 4x Fate.
Once again, Mitch LaFone. Mitch, I already told him, if you're listening, I already told him about how you hooked me up with Brian and Helix. But yes, I mean, what happened was, look at exactly. Mitch put together this amazing tribute CD.
Yes.
A World with Heroes.
Yes.
Look, and Helix. I already told him about Helix, man. I
was going to ask you about A World with Heroes, because you guys did Dr. Love.
Yeah. Well, you know, but before that, Mitch hooked me up with Terry Illis from XYZ.
XYZ, yes.
In Canada, XYZ, and later Great White. And we did a version of Forever. And actually, Jeff Paris played on that as well. Jeff Paris, great songwriter. And man, what a beautiful record that was. And Mitch raised a lot of money for that charity. It was for a hospice in Montreal.
Yes. And
also he managed, like, I mean, he was pulling together people from, you know, his vast string of connections.
Yeah.
And Todd and John Reagan were on that record as well. And through that, they were looking to rekindle a musical partnership, and they needed somebody to play guitar. Mitch introduced us. We hit it off. And then through there, a connection was made with another good friend of mine, Danny Stanton. Danny, I'm not sure if Mitch brought in Stet Howland or Danny Stanton did. I think maybe Danny did. But the initial version of 4x Fate was John Reagan, Todd Howard, Stet Howland, and myself.
Yeah.
And that's where it started. And my time in 4x Fate was short, but very influential. And John and I have talked about this many times, especially, you know, it was a great learning experience for me to work with, you know, all those guys, but John Reagan in particular, because he's such a gentleman, but such a huge musician too. He had this depth. I wasn't there yet in the realm of depth of how deep you can go as a musician. And I learned a lot from him, and I've kind of conveyed to him how much I learned in that short period of time. So very grateful.
That's awesome. And also, you know, speaking of more new music, you're also working on, is it an original album with Trapper?
Yes, yeah, Trapper. I mean, that's you know, I'm very excited about what's happening with Trapper. We've been, you know, together.
So are we.
Yeah. Well, you know, all I can say is that if you're a fan of 80s hard rock, you're gonna love what's happening here, because we're kind of really honoring those influences. And you know, M. Greiner is such a talent. I mean, remarkable independent artist. You know, she played in David Bowie's band. Like, I mean, her resume is pretty incredible. But what Trapper, once again, is all about is friendship and us honoring, you know, our teenage, you know, hard rock aspirations, right? So the music that's coming out of that camp is pretty incredible, and it's pretty cool. Like Trapper, we get together every 2 weeks, no matter what, and we get on Zoom, even though we're all tired of Zoom, and we connect and we talk and we laugh, and yeah, it's a really special band, and I'm really excited. I just finished cutting guitars on a new Trapper song, and we're gonna have a single out in September. I can tell you that much.
Right on.
And an EP out later in the year.
Oh, awesome! Great,
yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
that's the best thing right now, is just in this pandemic crazy year is new music to get us all through it. Power of music, you know.
It's been great for that. Like, I mean, you know, creativity is like water; it's got to run somewhere, right? So I think it's going into you know, I think we're getting a lot of good stuff. Actually, it's funny. I was just listening to a new Faster Pussycat song today.
Right.
Okay.
Man, it's great. I love that band. You know, Timmy's sounding incredible, and they have the original, and they did a cover of Johnny Thunder's Pirate Love, and I was just feeling very lucky. It's like, yeah, man, this is so cool. It's 2021. I'm in my backyard, and Faster Pussycat's still putting on. I'm a happy man.
Don't change that song.
Right.
I was just watching that video 2 seconds before I got on with you. It's so funny. I was just watching it because listening to that song today sparked, you know, sends me down the rabbit hole. I was just watching it going, man, this couldn't fly in 2021.
No.
Like, the whole concept of the video is boobs and violence. It's like, literally, that's what we're talking about. It's a Russ Meyer film.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's but that's just great to hear, like, everything that you're currently involved with. I mean, that's why we appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk to us, because you've been one of the first guys that we reached out to, and we started this silliness and killing some time. And we're lucky to be able to talk to guys like you and Greg Fraser and Brent Jensen and Andy.
Fraser's amazing. Greg's incredible.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah. Like, we actually had three of the four guys from Stormforce on with us last summer, and
oh, great.
And that was fun. Yeah, it's such a great record, Age of Fear.
Yeah.
And yeah,
wow.
So, and we're actually going to be talking to Brian Hamilton at the end of June.
Yeah, June
who's
25.
I guess he's launching a new band. So it was kind of cool. He reached out to me and Mike's and said, "Hey," we said, "Come on, we'll talk rock, man." You know,
nice.
That's what we do. So, you know, I don't know if you have anything else to add, Mike.
I was going to say, I just got a text from Carol Pope.
Oh, yes, we had a question about.
There we go.
I think there's some dates coming down. We're talking about live music shows.
Oh, there we go.
Like, I mean, I'm looking. Hold on. I don't think I can say yet, but oh man, this is so cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's some Carol solo and some Rough Trade stuff. So that's exciting.
Nice. We have. I just wanted to comment on this one. Can you ask him about Trapper opening for Def Leppard? I just wanted to say, in addition to what you were talking about earlier, M. Greiner's a rocker. She is. She has a rock and roll background, and she loves Def Leppard, and she loves to rock.
She's on a Def Leppard record.
Is she really?
She played piano on the record. That's her playing piano on the golden age of rock and roll.
I did not realize that, but I got the reissue on pre-order, so we're all good there.
Well, yeah, man, that's M. That's M playing.
I didn't realize that.
And you know what? She's great. Like, I mean, her, you know, Frank Greiner, who's also who produces the music and Trapper and guitar player. I mean, he mixed all that Rob Zombie stuff.
Right.
Like, I mean, and Tim Timlick, our drummer. Tim plays in I drag him in every band. He's poor guy. Poor guy. I'm always beating up on him, making him play with me. He's probably sick of me by now, but he plays in Rough Trade and Crash Kelly and probably someone else. Dale, we do the Dale Martindale Sings Bowie thing. But Trapper, yeah, great band. And the Def Leppard thing was, I mean, you know what's funny about that? This is literally how this came about. Sorry, am I running out of time here, boys?
No,
we're good to go as long as you are, man.
We don't want to be keeping you. That's the thing.
No, don't worry about that. But so Em and I, we met social media. I had heard a song of hers on the radio called North. And, you know, I'm one of those guys, when I hear something, I decide that the world needs to hear my every thought, and I shoot off some comment on Twitter or something, right? So I heard the song, and I was moved by it. I said, what a beautiful song, you know, made me think of home. And then she tweeted back something like, I've got to meet the guy who plays in Helix and Nelly Furtado. And I'm like, oh. We start talking and kind of shooting back and forth, and realize, so it looks like we're best friends. That's weird. Here we go. And I was on the road. I remember I was in Asia. I was on tour with Nelly, and we were doing like Japan and Taiwan and Singapore. I'm in Singapore, and I'm writing songs, and I'm emailing her riffs in the hotel. I'm going, hey, check this out. You like this? And we're kind of going back and forth. And we said, you know what? Let's put out a cassette. So we put out this cassette and sold 200 copies. We wrote these songs, put them out. We got Dave Betts initially from Honeymoon Suite. Dave came in and played drums. And we sold like 200 copies of this cassette. They just went, oh, this is interesting. You know, people are interested. So we said we should keep going with this. This is fun. And I saw that Def Leppard was coming through. And I knew that she was good friends with Joe Elliott, right? So I said, hey, Def Leppard's doing a Canadian tour. Why don't you see if we can open up some dates? Yeah. Because that's easy, right?
Yeah.
She goes, okay. This might happen.
Oh my God.
Now we have 2 songs, right? We're a band with 2 songs. So we've got to figure this out. We better write some more songs. So we wrote a couple more songs. We said, we're going to need some covers, and we had to get a show together, right? But we did, you know, worked up some of M's stuff. We had some cool covers. We recorded. We made the Go for the Heart EP, put it together. We did one warm-up show at little club. What's it called? Gladstone. No, it wasn't at the Gladstone. Someplace in Toronto. I can't remember. And next show was at the Bell Center in Montreal, baby. 12,000 people. You know, like, we're doing it.
Wow.
Now, we weren't strangers to playing in arenas. You know, everyone had been in, you know, Timmy was in Universal Honey, you know, Frank had, you know, I don't know if that might have been Frank's first arena gig. But anyway, but we're with Def Leppard. Like, I just remember walking around, and my brain couldn't process it. All the Def Leppard logo. I'm going, this is happening. Vivian Campbell knows my name. What's going on? Did he just say Sean? Like, he did. Like, it was awesome. We only did a few dates, but man, it was incredible. They treated us like gold. It was a dream come true. And, you know, it was one of those things too, where, you know, people started sniffing around then, right? Started getting calls from some labels, got, you know, people I know. But what are we going to do? Jump in a van? We're in our 40s now. Like, it's not like there's, and we have gigs, we have jobs. Like, this is how we're paying the bills, right? M was with Trans Severn at the time. But what we realize is through the years, we've always stayed in touch, and the dream never died. So that's what it is. And it's not about the goals. It's not about the business. Like, that's part of it. That's cool. But really, the dream is the friendship and getting to make music with your friends. And it's what's around the corner. Who knows, right? So we take it really seriously. But we don't take it so seriously, if you know what I mean. Like, it's like we take the music seriously. It's really just about us being friends. And but having said that, I'm pretty excited. There's some exciting things coming from that camp. That's all I can say.
Okay, perfect. That's awesome. You know, the other thing I wanted to ask you, and I'm kind of glad you started talking about Trapper, because yesterday you posted about the time you filled in for Honeymoon Suite at the last minute. Oh, yeah. Like no rehearsal, you just got the call and you went. I wanted to ask you, how, I know, like, for instance, like going back a little bit, when you were in town here in Thunder Bay, you were playing with Coney, and I was talking to you after the show, you said yeah, tomorrow I'm flying home, which is Sunday, and then Monday you're flying out somewhere to play a radio show with Alan Frew from Glass Tiger.
Right.
I wanted to ask you, like, you have to learn a repertoire of a huge catalog of music. I mean, that itself is impressive. Have you ever, now, if this has never happened, and if it does happen, feel free to phone me and yell at me, but have you ever gone into a solo and it's like, wrong guy, wrong band? You know, have you ever had that little bit of a metal fart? Because, I mean, you're learning the catalogs of Alan Frew, Glass Tiger, Helix, Coney Hatch, Trapper. I mean, you know?
You know what? It comes down to the reason why I think I might be suited to this type of work is not, listen, there's a million better guitar players, million better musicians, but my connection with those songs, somehow I'm able to translate the emotional connection and the sensory memory. You know, the Honeymoon Suite gig, Derry's obviously a very gifted guitar player and everything, but you can sing every one of those solos. You can sing them, and I grew up with the stuff. Yeah. Same with Lee Aaron's stuff. Like, I grew up with it, right? Like, it's in my DNA, and the conventions of rock guitar, you know, having been able to kind of go and understand how the, you know, where the 80s stuff I was into, where did it come from, and study that. It doesn't really happen because those songs, I'm connecting with those songs in the moment. It's not like, it's not a math exercise. It's an emotional exercise. So, you know, that doesn't mean that mistakes don't happen. But you know what? John Reagan told me this. We were walking on stage in Belgium. And we're playing the Alcatraz Metal Festival, big festival, right? And as we're walking on stage, now I'm going, oh crap, man. I'm punching above my weight here. Todd Howard, Ted Howell, and John Reagan. Yeesh. I'm sweating a bit. Reagan goes, hey, Kelly, make a few mistakes so I know you're having fun up there. He goes, then you're free. And I went, you're free. That's the thing. You have to liberate yourself from the fear of mistakes and everything because you're expressing yourself. And if you can get into that space where you're allowed to make a bad chord, a clam here and there, it doesn't matter, man. It just doesn't matter. I mean, it matters. You know, sometimes we all have train wrecks. You wish they didn't happen. But honestly, I think maybe once or twice, maybe after getting off a plane and going right to a gig, I looked down at a set list and went, which guitar do I use on this? What's the patch? But, you know, it comes back. Muscle memory. That's part of the fun. That's part of the fun. And
that's awesome. You grew up a fan listening to those bands. So, of course, the songs register. Another guy we should talk about, speaking of guitar players, is Steve Shelsky. He was another one of those guys that you can hum those guitar solos to. I mean, his playing in the 80s came out at a time when, you know, there's Ingwie. He was going great guns. And, I mean, just playing a million notes per minute. But Steve solos, I mean, Mike can attest to this. You can listen to the Coney Hatch live album and hear Steve, and you also add your guitar firepower to it too, and it's the best of both worlds. But those solos, I mean, monkey bars.
Well, you know, it's iconic stuff, and you know, monkey bars. That solo is actually a jazz piece called Donna Lee by Charlie Parker, right? But thrown into a completely different context. And, you know, it's played against different chords. Like, I mean, that's just an amalgamation of a producer, Kim Mitchell at the time, asking the guitar player to play the weirdest thing he could think of. From what I understand, I wasn't there. But yeah, you know, listen, Steve Shelsky wrote some of the most iconic and memorable guitar parts. It's in Canadian rock history. I'm honored to play those parts. Those parts deserve to be played like that. I can't help but be me at this stage of my life. So sometimes I'm going to react in a way that's going to be a little different. If I'm feeling that, then I have to honor that. But it's not too much with the Hatch because that's what I feel like. To me, they're compositions within compositions. Yeah, you know, they're part of the song and they deserve to be there. And man, Steve is such a gifted musician. If you listen to even what's happening behind track, some of the chord things, the sophistication of the harmony. Pretty incredible stuff, man. So he's left a real legacy and a real gift for guitar players. And, you know, it was almost like Randy Rhoads is kind of meeting, you know, John Coltrane or something. It's very interesting guitar playing. And that's, hey, the hardest thing in this world is to create your own style. Steve created his own style, you know, and it's an honor to play his parts. And yeah, they are most definitely his parts.
Well, you totally do them justice, my friend. I mean, it's awesome. And like I said, you add your own flair to it. I mean, look where you go soaring off at the end of Monkey Bars. I mean, that's
you know, it's funny. That's when that stuff comes, you know, from Kim Mitchell. For me being a kid, seeing Kim Mitchell, I was just saying this. I was just talking with Brent Jensen about this. And sorry, just a sec here, boys.
Yeah, no worries.
We're in negotiations, bedtime negotiations, right? Yeah, like Kim Mitchell brought art music to Northern Ontario bars and arenas, right? Like, I mean, to hear him play these things, these kind of free-form excursions and everything, that really stuck in my brain. So when I have a chance to do that, like, I'm searching. Like those are the moments I let myself search. So I'm really touched that you would notice that, because that's when I'm just kind of feeling free and going for it. And I often, you know, wipe out and fall over. But I think that I kind of landed on my feet all right. Yeah, the Germany one though, I'm excited about the Germany one. I won't lie. That one I caught something, but you know, but I'm happy with the live too. And thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. And I mean, when we have Andy back on, I think me and Mike are gonna hit him up on we want to get a release date on that one.
Yeah, we're gonna grill him like we're you know, a couple of prosecutors.
So because. Yeah, and it's great. I mean, it's just great to see. I mean, we're going back to Coney again and again, but it's just so great to see you guys, especially the Thumper, Carl, and Steve and Andy, all back in the mix, and you guys playing shows and doing. That's the other thing is when you guys do these weekend shows, like say like there was no pandemic and you're flying in, flying out to these shows. How much rehearsal time do you guys have to? Because I mean, you guys pull it off. Like you guys have been playing like 300 dates, and then you show up in Thunder Bay on your 301st date. I mean, you guys are so tight.
Well, thank you. You know, this is the tricky part of the gig. I mean, you know, you do your homework at home, right? Like where you're learning the parts and you're rehearsing, and we try to get a rehearsal or two in for sure. But for me, I'm walking into the history of these guys feeling music together for almost 40 years, right? Mm-hmm. These guys are a living, breathing entity. So I have to find my space in there, right? Like that's the challenge for me. Fortunately, I think I'm coming from the same space as those guys musically. So, you know, I feel comfortable playing in that time, but I have to be cognizant of it. You know, I have to be, okay, where are they feeling this? Where are they placing all this? Now, you know, fortunately with a guy like Thumper, man, he just puts it where it's got to be. Everything. That guy is insanely consistent. It's unbelievable how good that guy is as a drummer. Like he just puts it. There's no need to fix anything with what that guy's done. So really having a guy like that, and it's the same thing with Lee Aaron's band, you know, like a guy like John Cody, just kind of, you know, it's all there for you, and you just have to make the choice to swim in the water, right? It's like, here's the pool, water's fine, come on, you know, and that's it. And then you find your space, you know. And Timmy too, and Tim Timlick, like, you know, Dave Langeth, all these great drummers I play with, you know, all these great musicians I play with. Everybody has, you know, their thing, and when you're joining people who've been doing the thing together for a while, you just got to find your space in it. So there's not probably as much in-person rehearsal as you think, but there's years of experience that they have, and there's consideration, lots of at-home consideration when I'm practicing and going over it. It's not just the notes. it's finding, finding your space within it.
Oh, the troops are going to bed.
Yeah. Hi ho,
Trooping up the stairs.
That we go.
If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to ask you a little bit about. We were talking about this album earlier, and I know you're quite proud of it.
Yeah, man.
So I have two questions actually. First one is, has Lawrence Gowan ever heard your version of A Criminal Mind? And second question is, I think you mentioned you'd like to get this reissued. Any chance of a vinyl reissue?
Well, okay. Yes. Lawrence did hear it and wrote me a very nice note. And actually, I did a benefit show with him and Saga for the victims of the typhoon happened in the Philippines in 2000? Is it 2014? Well, I'm not sure. Yeah. But I did a benefit show. I just myself playing acoustic. And he was there, and he made a point very graciously to come up and say, "Hey, Sean, I heard that number. Really did a good job." Like, listen, he's such a warm, wonderful guy, genuine guy. And his talent level is off the roof. Obviously, we all know this, right? From soul and stuff. But the depth, you know what drives me nuts about that guy though? He's a killer guitar player.
Is he?
Oh wow. Shredding lead guitar player. I was watching that show. It was at the Phoenix in Toronto. I'm going, come on, man. And you're good looking on top of it all. Come on, leave some for the rest of us, buddy. No,
his keyboard playing in sticks is just out of this world, really.
Yeah.
Singing, it just comes out of him, right? And he's such a warm guy. In the few times I met him, he's a good friend. M. Griner from Trapper played in his band. Played in Gowan's band.
I think I knew that, but man, we're making so many connections here tonight.
So he came out to a Trapper show, and just tons of compliments, and just saying things he doesn't need to say, but but genuine and very nice. So that was really nice, and that album. It's funny, that album Where the Wood Meets Wire came after two albums that had done quite well for me. I had this opportunity to make these classical guitar recordings because, long story short, I was teaching guitar in Toronto, and I ended up teaching guitar to the son of the then head of classics at Universal Island Def Jam, Universal Classics. Like, he was the head of classical music at Universal Canada. And he said, "Hey, want to make a record?" I'm going, "What do you mean?" Because I studied classical guitar at university, but listen, I'm not a classical guitar player per se. I studied classical guitar. I got a degree in it, but I'm a rock guitar player who studied classical guitar. There's a difference. There are guys who dedicate their lives to playing. What I basically played on that first it was called the #1 classical guitar album. Right. And it was part of a series that Universal had of the #1 piano, #1, violin album. And we ended up doing it through one of their imprint labels, Opening Day, that's actually owned by the Canadian Brass. That's where the record ran through. But we had all of Universal's marketing muscle. Anyway, Angus can attest. Angus is calling now the kids are going to bed, so Angus is getting mad. But hold on a sec. Eric. Oh, never mind. I'm pushing my luck. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna rock past it. Okay, so I got the chance to do this classical record. It did quite well. But I basically played every piece I knew in university, and that was all I had at that point. And then I did a Christmas record, a kind of crossover pseudo classical Christmas record, and that record actually charted in the U.S. Billboard classical charts. Like, it was a hit.
Wow.
It's like, nice. Holy crap. So, but honestly, man, I still wanted to play rock music. I still wanted to play in a band. I didn't want to be a solo. Get the dog treats. I got him right. Oh no, I'm out. As the wine went down, so did the dog treats. Clearly, I love classical music. I love playing it, but I didn't want to forsake it. And you got, like anything, if you're going to dedicate yourself to a path, you got to dedicate yourself to it. But I ended up doing this record, Where the Wood Meets the Wire, which was, I wanted to reimagine some of these classical guitar pieces in a kind of prog rock, art rock way meets world music. I had this kind of grand vision that I worked on with my good friend, producer Craig McConnell. I thought it was great. The record it couldn't get played on classical radio. It couldn't get played on pop radio. There's no place to play it, and I was busy touring with Nelly, so I couldn't tour it. So it just came and went. Not many people know about this record. The other ones did really well. This one didn't do as well, but I love this record. And to answer your question about vinyl, I am looking into getting these. I'm going to talk to the label about pressing up all those classical guitar records.
Nice.
On vinyl, because I would love to see, especially that record. I think it's a really cool record. There's some great players on it. Dave Langeth, Dean Jarvis from, Alessia Cara and Nelly Furtado. He's on it. Daniel Stone, Mike Harriott from Canadian Brass. Some great players on. Brian Vollmer sings, does the one vocal appearance, does a version of Ave Maria on it. So, yeah, man, I would like to see that record come out. And, maybe I'll do more of those records. Oh, I got to tell you, I just finished a record with the Canadian Brass.
Oh, wow.
which rock fans are going to love for many reasons. Here, I'll give you a little scoop.
Okay.
Lee Aaron's on it.
Ooh.
And
Brian Fulmer.
There's a version of a song by 3 very famous Canadians that we all know and love.
3.
Okay.
That's all.
One of them be named Uncle Ricky.
No, not those 3. Not those
Not
3.
those
But
3.
you're not too far off. I'm not saying anymore.
Okay. We'll just leave it at that.
It's coming out in 2021.
Okay.
21.
I think we read you. We read you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if it's secret. I might have made this really a big deal.
I don't know. I've never heard this before. Have you heard this, Deke?
I just hope I don't have to wait. I hope I don't have to.
Cool record. Canadian Brass for their 50th anniversary did a version, a record full of Canadian classic songs, and they asked me to help them on some of the putting together a band for some of the rock crossover vibes. So we just finished that record. It sounds great.
Well, I hope I don't have to wait till 2112 to hear it.
And the meek shall no.
You people
Say no more. Say no more.
So, Sean, I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around here again. Now, back to your Metal on Ice CD here. 2 questions. When you do your new book, is there going to be a companion CD? And the second question is, when you did On the Road to Rock, did you reach out to original Kick-Axe vocalist George Christian?
It's funny. I couldn't find him. I wanted to interview him, but I couldn't find him. So I didn't reach out to George, but we did get Victor Langen and Ray Harvey on there to sing those background vocals, and it sounds just like a Kick-Axe.
Yeah. It sounds like
it does. Yeah, totally.
And Nick Walsh actually said, when I asked Nick to be involved, and Nick said, I'll do it, but I don't want to sing a Slick Toxic song. I want to sing Kick-Axe. I want to sing On the Road to Rock. And he rips it. Yeah. So I don't think there will be a companion CD for this book. Like that all came about because of where I was working. I was working as an artist coach and a music director for a company called Coalition Music at the time. And we had a program called Artist Entrepreneur. I was working on the education side. I was working with some of their artists on in the music directing, kind of getting their shows ready side. And they kind of, Rob Lanny and Eric Lawrence. Rob Lanny is the brother of Arnold Lanny, who run the company. And they said, hey, man, you're writing this book. We should put on a show or do a record. So I ended up putting the record through Warner Music through their Coalition Records label. And they helped immensely in putting that whole project together. But it was writing a book, making a record, putting on a show, and getting people. It was a lot of work, man. And I just don't think I've got the time these days to kind of pull something like that off again.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But it's a cool little companion piece. I mean,
I'm very proud of that record. I'm actually talking to someone about putting that on vinyl too.
Ooh, would that be all right? That'd be all right.
Yeah. So we're working on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, if you need like any kind of like inspiration to do more of those kind of tracks, I think Deke and I we'll buy 2 copies. So I love those covers. Well, not really covers, I guess, because Brian Vollmer's doing Heavy Metal Love, and
they're new versions, right?
Yeah,
new versions, and man,
that version of Metal Queen on there is just scorching.
Oh yeah, thank you, man. Well, that's where my whole association with Lee kind of came about, right? Like that was going to Vancouver. I was down there. I was actually in Vancouver for a workshop with Coalition, and that gave us an opportunity to get into a recording studio together and work together. And then we started talking, and I had interviewed her for the book. She'd agreed to be on the track, and she just, nailed it. And then started talking. I said, hey, if you ever need a guitar player out east, let me know. And a couple of gigs out east turned into 7 years later,
Yeah,
that's awesome. So it's almost Metal on Ice is almost like your I don't want to say job application, but
yeah, so like my audition tape.
Audition tape, yeah, because it also
go.
led to Coney Hatch as well, right?
Well, it's funny because I had been working with Carl previous to that. Carl and I had an acoustic duo. I played in his acoustic thing.
Oh, no way.
For a gig that we used to do at Seneca Casino in Niagara Falls in the States, where I would show up and Carl knows every song in the world, and I'd have to try and figure out what the hell he was playing. Come on, man. You know this one? You remember this song, right? By Edison Lighthouse. I'm going, what the hell? And then he started. And this guy's amazing, right? Like he's like alive. So anyway, that's where I'd been playing with Carl, and I actually did some stuff in his solo band, playing some of his solo shows.
Oh,
so
okay.
I had that relationship with Carl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool little EP. So I hope it does get reissued on vinyl, because you'll know you've sold 2 copies tonight.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, boys.
For what it's worth.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
And then usually when we end up reviewing something, I can sell a second copy and he can sell a second copy. So, that's 4 copies right there.
That's happened in 2021, isn't it?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah. So good.
Awesome.
Well, Mikey.
Well, let me just take a quick look. I've completely ignored all of my questions tonight. I think actually, you have, Sean, you have pretty much answered every question that I had written down that I didn't ask you. The only thing I did want to talk to you about, Dr. Love, I mentioned earlier. You kind of took a neat little twist on that song. You did the backing vocals kind of like a distorted computerized version.
It was a vocoder.
It was a vocoder. Okay.
Vocoder. Craig McConnell, my buddy Craig, who now produces like Celine Dion and stuff, right? but I'm his sordid hair metal past. No, he's a good friend of mine. We've worked on a lot of stuff together. Craig, I think it was him. I think he said, "Hey, check this out, Dr. Love." He had this thing in it. Anyway, that was a Craig McConnell production choice.
Okay,
and it was an inspired one.
I enjoyed that. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'll reiterate what you said earlier, that A World with Heroes double CD that Mitch Lafone put out. In my opinion, it's the best Kiss tribute album that's ever been put out, and that's something you should be very proud to be a part of. It's excellent, and unfortunately sold out on CD. So
yeah, I think I ended up giving a copy to somebody, but I don't regret it. It was a good guy. I gave it to a good guy.
Good, as long as it went to somebody.
That's okay. You know what? The music's out there, and that's cool.
Yeah.
What about a website if people were ever interested in getting like music from you direct? Is there anything you want us to plug for you? Or?
You know what? I am in talks with the people at Rock Paper Merch who do the about doing a Sean Kelly, Crash Kelly, Trapper page. So we'll do
nice.
something. Yeah.
Okay, good to know, because a lot of people say, hey, like we send people off getting Coney Hatch albums through there. So
eventually I'll get that stuff all up and running.
Okay.
Get a couple more hours in the day. And
yeah, well, you're probably one guy, like Y&T said, 25 hours a day, right? You probably could use that extra hour, right?
Yeah, buddy. Sure can.
Well, thanks so much for taking time out on a Friday night, Sean, to join us.
Yeah.
I mean,
my pleasure.
Me and Mike we're psyched just to get to pick your brain about your past, what's going on currently with all the bands you're in, the songs you've written, Gilby Clarke, Coney Hatch, Honeymoon Suite. It's all awesome. So you know what? Thanks, man. We can't thank you enough for, like I said, your family included. Thank your family.
Yes, thank you for putting up with us.
Your wife as well, taking care of the kids and Angus and everything. So
yeah,
stay in touch, and if you ever want to come back on, man, you just reach out to us, and you're always welcome here, pal.
I hope, though, as much as I'd love to have you back on a Friday night, I hope that before too long we're back to you playing gigs on Friday nights.
Amen, brother. Amen. That's what from your mouth to God's ears.
There we go. There we go.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Thanks, guys. A real pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on, and we'll be in touch. Okay.
Sounds excellent, man.
Okay. All the best, my friends.
Take care.
Take care, Sean.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
That was
awesome. Yeah.
You can't beat guys like him, man. I mean, really.
So many stories.
I'm sure you'll remember it when we first had Andy on and we were glitching and Sean was trying to help us out with some tech support. And like I said, that guy oozes rock and roll cool. I mean, that's the epitome right there of stories. He's not egotistical. He's just a guy who pursued a dream and he's making a living of it. I mean, that's gold right there. Hey, you're welcome, Zinger. Thanks for joining in, man.
You know what else, Deke? And he kind of alluded to this when he was talking about his book. You never hear Sean Kelly say a negative word about anything or anybody. No. Whenever a new track comes out, he's always got something positive to say about the performance or the songwriting, and he's inspiring. He's inspiring. I like, follow Sean Kelly on social media. He's inspiring. Yeah.
Thanks, Frank.
That's what I got to say. Wonderful. And G-Nick, thank you. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching. Yeah, it's awesome.
That was a blast.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was just fun to hear all that history and stuff, and a lot of stories. I mean, it's always neat to hear the backstories of these guys. I mean,
Yeah. And some of the stuff, it unfortunately doesn't get talked about anymore, like 4x Fate, for example, and it's nice to hear that inside track there because, it's a kind of a forgotten record in a way.
And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because I was going through my sheets going, okay, I got to ask him about Trapper and Sweet and da-da-da. And I totally forgot about that. So I'm glad you pulled the weight on that one because it was like, ding.
It sounds like we got a Trapper EP coming later this year, and I think he also mentioned a single that will probably be on that EP.
September, yeah.
Man, there's so much good stuff coming out. The new Lee Aaron on July 23rd,
and another Coney Hatch live album in the can with 2 unreleased studio tracks, which we're going to ask Andy about big time now.
We're going to try
and pry it out from the
twist the arm,
the boss man himself when he comes back on. So. And by the way, when we do have Andy Curran on, he's coming on Saturday, June 12th at 1 o'clock. So that's it's not a Friday night, it's a Saturday afternoon. And and I also asked Andy if he wouldn't mind doing a little show and tell. They're okay. A little show and tell for us. So I'm not saying what it is, but it's going to be cool.
Interesting. So you've been working behind the scenes.
Working the channels, man.
Working the channels. Well, Deke, thank you once again for an awesome guest. I'm just going to grab the schedule out and do the plug-a-roo.
Yep.
Because we got a busy week next week. May 28th, Dave Lismy from the Four Horsemen.
Yep.
May 29th. Saturday, May 29th at 3 in the afternoon, we'll be having on for the very first time Tim Derling from Tim's Vinyl Confessions with Mr. Aaron. And you might know Tim from The Contrarians. Right. So that'll be exciting. June 4th, we got Judas Priest on the lists. We're going to have Harrison, Jon Snow, and Jeff Stephen on graphs. June 11th, we got the best blind buys. Now, what a blind buy is when you go out and buy a record without knowing very much at all about it. No, you don't know the songs. Maybe you don't even know the band. That's going to be with Kevin, Sarah, Aaron, and newcomer Mr. James McCuddy. Hold the calendar up, Mike. Okay, I'll hold it up after I'm done reading it. June 12th, we're talking about Andy Curran, 1 p.m. with Super Deeks. And then we got a run of Super Deek shows. We got 3 Super Deek shows in a row. The following week, we have Robert Lawson on, who we've talked about his book, Still Competition, The Cheap Trick Story. And he's got 2 other books as well.
Yeah.
June 25th, Super Deeks will be back with Brian Hamilton from Stormforce. We'll be talking about their new music and his upcoming solo, well, not solo project, but a new project that he's involved with.
Mm-hmm.
And then fresh on the schedule, somebody whose name you might not be familiar with, but somebody whose work you are familiar with, if you're a Stone Temple Pilots fan, we have engineer mixer Ryan Williams with co-host Jon Snow. And yeah, calendar is so long that it looks like a Star Wars crawl. But there you go. You can see the schedule on my site. Ryan Williams, we just locked him in today. So that'll be cool. He's worked with a bunch of different artists, and Stone Temple Pilots being the most notable.
And speaking of which, and speaking of Robert Lawson, you can get his books on, well, 2 of his 3 books on Amazon. I got The Cheap Trick and The Guess Who. The only one I didn't get was the Nazareth one, so I might hit him up directly on that one. But he's basically written, well, the Cheap Trick book, I'm basically doing a deep dive in, and he thoroughly examines every single record, every single single, everything. And it's a great read. So we're really, really going to focus on the Cheap Trick because it's a pretty fascinating history with those guys. And we'll talk about his latest one, The Guess Who, which is I've been kind of digging into too. So we've got some stuff. We've got some stuff coming up on the train, folks. So make sure.
My understanding is though that Mr. Lawson, because I don't have the books yet. I got to do a crash course, and I'm not even all that familiar. Like compared to you, I'm not even all that familiar with Cheap Trick. So my understanding is that Mr. Lawson is also willing to just come on and talk some rock and roll. So
talk rock.
I
told him we're a loosey goosey operation. So, well, there you go.
I didn't know that part, or I forgot that part. So that's pretty cool, man. Grammy nominee.
And Grammy nominee. You know, you just added to your list of accomplishments on this, Mikey. We've had now a Grammy nominee, and we've had 2 Juno Award winners on.
Yeah. So we're moving up in the world. Quite impressive. But again, thank you for pulling in Sean and asking him. You did this way back in the fall, and he's so busy, as we all know.
I reached out to him, I think about 3 weeks before the Coney live stream back in early October. And I said, hey, you want to come on and plug the thing? And he said, dude, I'm so swamped with school with Coney. Goes, but I promise you I'll get back to you. So I was like, okay. And then I don't push after these guys. Like I just say, hey, like da-da-da. And then what was it, 4 weeks ago, he reached out to the both of us and he says, hey, I think I can make some time for you guys. And we're like, so ton of fun.
The cool thing, like another thing I'll say about Sean, he agreed to come on the show when we had done nothing. So he's willing to give guys like us a shot, and and then we had Stormforce, and it started to snowball a bit from there, getting some really, I'm gonna say high profile because it makes me feel good, high profile guests on the show. But Sean was on board when we had nothing. Yeah,
and I figured it would work out with him because I mean he was graciously enough to do that 10 questions with me at my blog a few years ago, right? And he didn't even. I just told him, look, man, I'm just a scribbler at this. I am not a writer. I'm just a music fan. Here's my 10 questions, and he sent them back. So I thought, and then we started chit chatting back and forth occasionally. So I've followed him, but yeah, such a great guy, man. He just loves music. You can just feel it, And
you might remember this back in 2019, I got my video converter for my VCR. Mm-hmm. And I started posting all my Much Music videos, and Sean would come in and he would help me out with the details. I would post a picture and say, who is this VJ? And he'd come back and he'd name the he knew. And he mentioned earlier tonight, he didn't even have Much Music when it was a paid channel. So he must have loved it when it came to free cable.
A lot of us at first didn't have it. I didn't have it. And it was like, once I got my summertime job in '84, I told my parents, hey, if I give you $5 a month, can we get Much Music? They're like, oh, frick, we'll just get it for him to shut him up. So
you know how we got it, Deke? You know how we got it? Toronto Blue Jays. They had a package deal, TSN, Super Channel, and Much Music. My mom wanted the Toronto Blue Jays on TSN, which meant my sister and I got Much Music. Nice. We were thrilled, man. We couldn't believe it. But we didn't even push for it.
Yeah. Now Thunder Bay TV up here, they weren't thinking like that. They were just thinking they lumped Much Music in with the movie networks. So you basically had to pay, the movie networks, which were always a little more pricier than the regular channels. And especially when we only had 5-6 channels at the time. Getting much
Yeah.
music was like gold. And the Power Hour. I mean, you can ask T-Bone and Dar. I mean, we'd have our VCR set every Thursday at 4 to 5 to get the latest. So yeah, it was cool when you did that with Sean, and Sean would say, "That's YNT Contagious." You know?
Yeah, he knew it. He knew everything. And earlier tonight when he's saying, I was in the same venue that Lee Aaron taped the Hot to Be Rocked video.
Yeah.
It's like, I would never in a million years be standing in a venue going, I know this place from a music video. Never.
And the thing is, and that's the sign of a music fan doing what he loves for a living.
Yeah,
Plain
no wonder
and
he
simple.
wrote the book, man. No wonder he wrote the book.
No, but anyways, thanks for having me on tonight, Mikey. It was a blast. Folks, tune in next week when Mikey's riding shotgun with one of the 4 horsemen. It's going to be a good one. Yeah, I'll be watching. So should you.
This means that we got to go out on a song. We got to go out on your favorite. We got to go out in your theme song. We got to go out on Balls of Steel. Thank you, T-Bone Erickson, for all this music, by the way. You are awesome. Couldn't do it without you, buddy. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Next week, we got Dave Lismy of the 4 Horsemen on Friday, and we got Tim Derling and Aaron on Saturday.
Talk to you later, Mike.
See you, Deke.
All right. Well, his blood runs cold, and he doesn't feel many legends told of his balls of steel. You better listen up. Never had a care, never worried who was there. He just looked you in the eye, and like a tiger hunting prey, now he decides, oh, if you live or if you die. You try to run, but there's no place to hide. Well, his blood runs cold, and it doesn't feel many legends told of his balls of steel. Bigger than a freaking Ferris wheel. Now you've been warned, he's got balls of steel. He's a little bit insane. Don't give a shit's his middle name. When he's got you in his sights, that's when you must wisely choose your demise. Oh, do you flee or do you fight? But you won't have much time before he strikes, because his blood runs cold, and it doesn't feel many legends told of his balls of steel. Bigger than a freaking Ferris wheel. Now you've been warned, he's got balls of steel. Because his blood runs cold, and it doesn't feel many legends told of his balls of steel. Bigger than a freaking Ferris wheel. Now you've been warned, he's got balls of steel. He's coming to collect, so you better kneel. Show your respect for his balls of steel. They play a tune like a glockenspiel. Nothing he can't do with his balls of steel. His blood runs cold and it doesn't feel. Many legends told of his balls of steel. Bigger than a freaking Ferris wheel. Now you've been warned, he's got balls of steel.